Hi everyone, my name is Kirsten and today I'm going to be talking to you about joints. A joint is any point where two bones meet or interact with each other. Joints are also known as articulations. There are four major classifications of joints based on their structure. The first type of joint we're going to be talking about today is bony joint. Bony joints occur when two bones fuse together and become one bone. The term synostosis means no movement occurs between the bones and is used to describe the movement of bony joints. An example of a bony joint is the frontal bone. It starts out as two separate bones during infancy, but fuse into one solid bone by adulthood. The next type of joint we're going to talk about is a fibrous joint. Fibrous joints are bones bound by short collagen fibers. These fibers allow very little movement. This is called synostosis. There's three types of fibrous joints. The first one is a suture, which is the joint between cranial bones. The second one is the gomphosis joint, which is the joint between a tooth and the mandible or maxilla. The third one is a syndesmosis joint. It's slightly more movable because its fibers are a little bit longer. The fibers hold two bones next to each other. An example is the ulna and the radius. The next type of joint we're going to talk about are cartilaginous joints. Cartilaginous joints are where two bones are linked by cartilage. This provides a moderate amount of movement, also known as amphiarthrosis. There are two types of cartilaginous joints. The first type is synchondrosis, where the bones are bound by hyaline cartilage. An example is where the ribs connect to the sternum. The second type is symphysis, where the bones are bound by a thick layer of fibrocartilage. An example is the pubic symphysis and the invertebral discs. The last type of joint is synovial joints. Synovial joints involve a fluid-filled cavity that connects the bones. This joint is freely movable, also known as diarthrosis. They have a narrow space between the bones called the joint cavity. It is filled with synovial fluid that lubricates the joint and reduces friction. The joint cavity is surrounded by the joint capsule, which includes an outer fibrous capsule that helps hold the joint together and retain the fluid. It also contains the inner synovial membrane that produces the synovial fluid. Each of the facing surfaces of the bones has articular cartilage, which reduces frictions of the bones as well. There are 6 different types of synovial joints. The first type of joint is a ball and socket joint, which is multiaxial. An example is the hip. The second type is a condylar joint, which is biaxial. An example is between the metacarpals and the phalanges. The third type is a saddle joint, which is also biaxial. An example is between the trapezium and the first metacarpal of the thumb. The fourth type is a plane joint, which is also biaxial. An example is between the carpals. The fifth type is a hinge joint, which is monoaxial. An example is the elbow. And the sixth type of joint is the pivot joint, which is also monoaxial. An example is the head of the radius and the ulna.